Welcome to the Jubil-AIR's radio show. We are presenting George is Jealous of Gracie's Old Boyfriend, first broadcast on October 3rd, 1944, and starring George Burns and Gracie Allen. This show is sponsored by
Swan Soap. Swan, a newer, better floating soap, made by a modern patented process no other soap can use. Swan Soap is the white floating soap that's purer than the finest hard soap. Use it in the kitchen as dish soap, and your dishes will dry with a sparkle without you wiping them. Or use it in the bathroom to bathe the baby in gentle, creamy lather. Use it to take care of yourself too, for softer, smoother, younger skin. It's also great for washing your clothes and leaves them soft and comfortable to wear. Swan Soap is long-lasting, so you can save money right down to the last sliver. So float through your day with the greatest of ease. Swan dishes or duds or whatever you please. Swan's gentle and mild with your skin, it agrees. Buy Pure Swan, it's the soap of your dreams.
George, how many lumps do you want in your coffee?
2, thanks.
Is there anything interesting in the paper today, or is it just news?
Just news.
How many lumps do you want in your coffee?
2. Thanks.
George, did you take the little duck for a walk this morning?
Gracie, last week that duck hunting trip cost me plenty, and I just as soon not have that web-footed headache around here.
Oh, he's so cute. He even comes when I call him. Here, Ducky, Ducky, Ducky.
Quack, quack, quack.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here.
Quack, 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 quack.
Oh, you frightened him.
Frightened him. I'd like to fricassee him.
Oh, now. Come here, little ducky.
Quack,
Oh, don't listen to that mean old daddy duck.
quack, 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 quack.
Oh, don't worry, little ducky. He's not really your daddy.
Quack.
Well, that's a break for me, too.
George, how many lumps?
2. Thanks.
You know, little Henrietta understands every word we say.
Now the duck's name is Henrietta?
Yes,
Yesterday, his name was Herman.
I didn't buy those eggs you had for breakfast.
Oh, thanks, Henrietta.
Quack, quack, quack.
Okay, I'll take the silly duck out for a walk again.
But you haven't had your coffee yet, George. How many lumps?
2. Thanks. Ugh. Boy, this coffee is awful.
Why, what's the trouble?
Too cold. Come on, Henrietta. Let's go.
Quack, 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 quack.
Hello, Phyllis.
Hello, George.
Gracie's inside. I'll be right back.
Quack, 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 quack.
A duck with a harness on. Are you kidding?
Come on, Henrietta. Come on.
Quack, 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 quack.
Well, I still can't believe it. Gracie, look at him through the window. Doesn't he walk with the cutest waddle?
Why, sure. That's why I married him.
You know, that's the most ridiculous sight I've ever seen. A grown man walking down the street with a duck on a leash. People must think he's crazy. He should get a swan.
Why a swan?
You know, like Swan Soap. So float through your day with the greatest of ease. Swan dishes or duds or whatever you please. Swan's gentle and mild with your skin, it agrees. Buy Pure Swan, it's the soap of your dreams.
Oh, Phyllis, I'm certainly glad you got here. I'm in a terrible mess, and I need help.
Well, Gracie, what is it?
I got a letter from a boy who used to be my sweetheart when I went to school. And I'm afraid to tell George. You know how jealous he is.
Well, that's nothing. I'll fix it. Oh, hey, George.
Yeah, Phyllis.
Come in here, will you?
Yeah, wait while I just tie the duck to the fence.
Quack, 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 quack.
Now, don't worry, Gracie. Leave everything to me.
Well, all right.
What is it, Phyllis?
Say, George, you're a smart fellow. Now, if Paula Whiteman, you know, Sam's wife, say, got a letter from a boy who used to be her sweetheart when she went to school, what do you think Sam ought to do about it?
Why, nothing. That's kid stuff.
Okay, Gracie, read the letter.
What? A letter?
Dear Gracie, I'll be in town today and will phone you before I drop in and see you. We haven't seen each other since our school days, and it might be fun. Signed, Keith Fowler. P.S. Remember that rainy afternoon?
Gracie? What happened that rainy afternoon?
It rained.
What happened after that?
Oh, it cleared up.
Who is this fellow?
Keith Fowler?
Yeah, Keith Fowler.
Oh, my girlhood sweetheart. Oh, George, he was wonderful. I'll never forget the day I met him. Such old world charm, so devil may care, so smooth, so handsome, yet intensely masculine.
How old was he?
6.5.
6.5?
Yes, but he had the mind of a boy of 7.
Well, what am I getting excited about?
George, you were worried about that rainy afternoon.
When Keith was 19.
19?
Yes, and boy, oh boy, was he an athlete.
Oh, he was an athlete?
Well, you know where you have that vaccination mark in your arm?
Yeah.
That's where he has muscles.
Oh, yeah? Well, what's wrong with my arm? I mean, look at it.
Oh, that reminds me. I'd better tell Hilda to make some spaghetti for dinner.
Spaghetti? Oh, fine.
Hilda!
Say, Phyllis,
Yes, George.
now that Gracie is gone, you could do me a favor.
Yes.
When this Fowler guy gets here, when he starts talking athletics, I know nothing about it. So, will you please change the subject?
Well, George, that would be very rude.
You could do it subtly. For instance, I'll show you. Just go ahead. Just start talking about athletics. I know you're a big fan.
Well, okay. Well, now, take Greg Rice of Notre Dame. There's an athlete. There's a fellow...
Say, Phyllis, where'd you get that dress?
Oh, you like it, huh?
Actually, no, I don't like it. But I changed the subject, didn't I?
Well, gee, George, you did at that. Now, go ahead. Do it again, and this time I'll try to stick to the subject.
Okay? Okay, go ahead. Go on.
Right now, Greg Rice holds the indoor record for 2 miles,
Ah, that Swan soap.
for 3,000 meters,
It's the white floating soap.
and for 3 miles.
It's a good soap.
And no other... Good? Is that all you can say for Swan?
See, Phyllis? I did it again.
Why, Swan is the first really new white floating soap in this century.
You see how easy it is to change the subject?
Why, Swan is 8 ways better than old-style floating soaps.
I guess it's not so easy.
Good, he says. Why, Swan lathers twice as fast, even in the hardest water. Swan gives you loads of thick, creamy suds.
Now it's practically impossible.
Swan costs no more than old-fashioned floating soaps, yet Swan gives you more soap for your money.
That's a nice dress you've got on, Phyllis.
Your whole family will like Swan for washing the dishes. And Swan is great for silk stockings and underthings. It's so gentle and sudsy, and it holds the record for 2 miles.
For 2 miles?
How do you like that? I switched myself off the subject.
Well, I can't understand that.
Hey, George, did anyone drop in? For instance, say, Keith Fowler?
Gracie, don't mention that man's name.
George, don't get upset. Keith is just a boy I went to grade school and high school with. I did have a crush on him, but so many things started to happen that I lost track of him.
Well, what kind of things?
Oh, just awful, terrible things. My father went bankrupt. We lost our home, and we had to move to another city. Then we were dispossessed.
Just one calamity after another.
Yeah, then I married you.
Well, I've heard enough. I'm going up to my room.
And now the Randy Summers Orchestra with the Jubil-AIR theme.
George, will you please come down? Oh, it's really silly locking himself up in his room, all on account of Keith Fowler.
Hey, Gracie, what really happened during that rainy afternoon?
Well, I'll tell you, Phyllis, if you promise not to tell George.
I promise.
Well, what happened was... Oh, here comes George. I'll tell you later. I wouldn't upset him for the world, so don't even mention Keith.
All right.
That's a pretty tune you're whistling, Keith.
Keith?
Me?
Now look here, Gracie. If you think for one moment that I give a rap about that silly love affair you had in school, you're crazy.
You're getting excited for no reason at all. This is just something you've built up in your own head, and there's really nothing in it.
Oh, sure. I'm wrong. I'm always wrong.
Let me get you some coffee, George.
Everyone's right except me.
Hello? What? Oh, sure, I'll be glad to. Goodbye.
Who was that? Why'd you open the window?
Mr. Lascover said he couldn't hear the fight.
George, come here.
What is it, Phyllis?
Now listen, and don't get upset. Keith Fowler mentioned that he's going to phone before he gets here.
Yeah?
Well, as soon as the phone rings, I'll answer it and get rid of him.
Oh, well, thanks, Phyllis. That'd be great.
Okay.
Gracie, forget the whole thing. I'm not mad anymore. It's all over.
I knew I'd see it my way.
Phyllis, pick up the phone.
Gracie, I'll get the phone.
All right.
Hello? What? Who? Oh, sure. We're expecting you. Come right over.
Why, you double-crossing!
It's Janet Nash.
Oh,
So, George, you're not mad at me anymore?
I wasn't mad. I was only kidding. I can hardly wait to meet Keith. Isn't that right, Phyllis?
Oh, yeah. He'll get a big kick out of George.
He certainly will.
I'll bet you'll like Keith. He was not only the best athlete in school, he also had a beautiful singing voice. Every day when he walked me home from school, he'd sing Yippee-ki-yay to me. I lived 3.5 courses from school.
3.5 courses, huh?
Well, it was really a little further. He used to hold the last note.
Yippee-ki-yay. That's my favorite song, too.
Oh, George, you're not really angry about what happened that rainy afternoon.
Nah, it was probably nothing.
Of course, it was nothing.
Sure. Gracie, it really makes no difference if you feel like telling me or not. But what really happened that rainy afternoon?
Well, I promised Keith not to tell.
But Gracie, I'm your husband.
It's not fair to break a promise. George, you wouldn't like it if you were my sweetheart.
If I were your sweetheart. Gracie, don't ever speak to me again.
Say, George, would you like some sugar for your coffee?
Phyllis, tell her I don't want any.
Gracie, George said to tell you he doesn't want any.
Well, tell him he's not going to get any.
George, Gracie said to tell you you're not going to get any.
Well, tell her thanks.
Gracie, George said to tell you thanks.
Oh, tell him he's welcome.
George, Gracie said to tell you you're welcome.
Here comes Paula Whiteman up the front steps.
Quack, 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 quack.
Hey, watch it.
What's the matter, Paula?
That duck out there just bit me on the ankle.
Now don't be silly. A duck has no teeth.
Well, I don't want to be gummed to death by any duck.
Hello, Paula.
Say, Phyllis, would you tell George to tell Miss Whiteman not to say such mean things about poor little Henrietta?
Sure. George, Gracie said to tell you...
I heard her, Phyllis. And you tell Mrs. Burns that she can tell Miss Whiteman herself.
Okay. Gracie, George said to tell you...
Yeah, I know, Phyllis. And Phyllis, tell Mr. Burns to ask Miss Whiteman to sit down.
George, Gracie...
Never mind, Phyllis, never mind. If Ms. Whiteman wants to sit down, she's smart enough to figure it out for herself.
Say, what's going on? Are you kids playing broken telephone?
Well, we are acting like a bunch of kids. Phyllis, tell Gracie I'd like to kiss and make up.
Hey, wait a minute. I want to get in this game too. Phyllis, would you tell it to me and I could tell it to Gracie?
Oh, shut up.
Oh, let her play, George.
Oh.
Paula, George told me to tell you to tell Gracie that he'd like to kiss and make up.
Okay, Gracie, George told Phyllis to tell me to tell you that he'd like to kiss and make up.
Would you mind repeating that question?
You heard her. I told Phyllis to tell Paula to tell you that I would like to kiss and make up.
All right, then you kiss Paula, and Paula, you kiss Phyllis, and Phyllis, you can kiss me.
Gracie, don't ever speak to me again.
George, what did I do now?
Say, here comes Janet Nash up the walk.
Quack, 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 quack.
Jeesh!
Hello, Janet.
Ouch! That must be a watch duck.
You too, huh?
Wait a minute. I I know what we'll do. Let's have Janet sing a song, and that will soothe George's nerves.
You know, that's a great idea, Gracie. George! Oh, George! Come down. Janet Nash is here. She's going to sing a song.
Well, maybe I was acting like a kid. What are you going to sing?
Yippee-ki-yay!
Yippee-ki-yay? Now look here, Janet Nash. No!
Goodbye!
Quack, 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 quack.
It's a good thing she's gone. Where's Gracie?
Well, she went to her room.
See, I brought this whole thing on myself. She's probably up there crying her eyes out. Someone ought to punch me in the nose. Wait a minute, just an expression. Gee, I didn't mean to hurt Gracie's feelings. Say, Phyllis, that's probably that guy.
Well, leave him to me.
Just brush him off.
Hello? You're right, George. It's the rainy afternoon.
Well, brush him off.
Okay, don't worry. Yes? No, they're not home.
Way to go, Phyllis.
Well, do I know when they're coming back? Maybe never.
Way to go, Phyllis.
No, I'm not her ugly husband.
Hang up on him, Phyllis. Hang up.
I tell you I'm not. I'm Phyllis Goodwin.
Just hang up on him, Phyllis.
Oh. Oh, well, thanks. Sure. Oh, honest, it really is 8 ways better than old-style floating soap. Yeah, sure is. Swan is the first really new white floating soap in this century. Swan. S-W-A-N, Swan.
Phyllis, the brush. Give him the brush.
Quiet, George, I can't hear him.
Give him the brush.
Quiet! What? Oh, Swan comes in that cool-looking green wrapper with the white swan on the front. I tell you what. Look, if you're not doing anything right now, come on over and I'll tell you more about it. Yeah. So long, pal.
Didn't I tell you I didn't want that fella in the house? All I'll be listening to now is quarterbacks and fullbacks and broad jumping and hurdling.
George, you want to do something that'll take the wind out of that Fowler's sails?
Yeah.
All you've got to do when he gets here is to tear a telephone book in half.
Paula, I can't tear a telephone book in half.
Oh, well, how about a Jubilee directory?
Oh, stop being funny.
George, Paula may have a good idea with that directory. You see, get a razor blade and cut all the pages down the center except the cover.
Yeah. And then Fowler will really think I can tear it in half. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go get a directory.
Good, but don't let him see you.
When he comes, I'll get right behind this curtain.
Okay. As much as I'll enjoy showing off in front of this guy, I still feel like a heel. With Gracie up in her room, broken-hearted, crying her little heart out.
Well, how do I look in my new dress?
What's the idea of getting all dressed up?
Oh, am I? Oh, I didn't notice it.
Not much.
Well, I just happened to put my hand in my closet, and this little old thing kind of stuck to my fingers.
Gracie, what happened on that rainy afternoon?
Well, I'll tell you what happened on the rainy afternoon. If you promise not to ask me what happened on the day it snowed.
Gee, maybe I'd rather hear what happened on the day it snowed.
Well, I'll tell you if you don't ask me what happened on the day it rained.
Oh, all right. What happened on the day it snowed?
The same thing that happened on the day it rained. Except I had my galoshes on.
Well, this is great.
How's the weather, George?
Very foggy.
Say, here comes someone up the walk. Say, what a pair of shoulders.
Really? Paula, have you finished cutting the church directory?
Not yet, George. I'm only up to the hicks.
Well, hurry up.
Quack, 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 quack.
Hey,
Why, Keith Fowler.
well, Gracie Allen, you're a sight for sore eyes.
Oh, gee, so are you. After all these years, it's certainly a pleasure to see you. This is Phyllis Goodwin.
Oh, yeah, we had a word or two on the phone.
Yes, we did.
And that's Paula Whiteman behind the curtains.
Hello.
Hello?
And, this is my husband, George Burns.
How do you do?
How do you do?
By the way, Mr. Burns, what business are you in?
The radio business.
Well, I'm glad to know that. If any of my friends ever need their radio repaired, I'll certainly recommend you.
Thanks.
Well, Keith, you certainly bring back old times. Remember Mrs. Mumble?
Will you ever forget how I used to carry your encyclopedias back and forth to school? And I'd sing Yippee-Ki-Yay over the top of them?
Oh, yes. Remember Mrs. Mumble?
Encyclopedias?
Well, I took my lunch in them. Remember Mrs. Mumble?
You kept your lunch in them?
Yeah. Butter under B, cheese under C, jelly under J, and pie under K. Remember Mrs. Mumble?
Pie? Pie under K?
I was crazy about custard pie. Remember Mrs. Mumble?
Look, tell her about Mrs. Mumble.
I don't remember Mrs. Mumble. Who was she?
Why, Keith, she's the man who owned the corner drugstore's girlfriend.
Oh, sure.
Oh, fine.
Keith, I notice you're still wearing all those medals you won.
Well, not all. I've still got a drawer full at home.
Oh, stop being so modest.
Mr. Burns, I don't know if you know anything about athletics, but I was really an amazing athlete. In fact, I broke the world record for the 100-yard dash in 9 4/5.
Yeah, well, who held the record before that?
I did.
Of course, Mr. Fowler, you know that the record is now 9 2/5?
Oh, you mean the one I ran in Omaha?
Well, I don't know much about running, but would you like to see me tear a great big church directory in half?
George, not yet. I'm only up to the snooks.
Well, maybe I'll do it a little later.
Remember, Gracie, when you got that glamour girl complex and you tried to vamp all the boys?
Oh, yes. And remember the day I came to school with the rose in my teeth?
You looked pretty silly.
Well, I guess I should have taken the rose off the bush first.
Well, it's been a lot of fun seeing you, Gracie, but I've really got to run along now.
Say, Fowler, before you go, would you like to see me tear a great big thick church directory in half?
Not yet, George. I'm still to the Smooths?
Forget it, Paula.
Well, goodbye, Keith. And you certainly must come by again.
I will.
Say, Fowler, before you go, there's just one thing I'd like to ask you. Just man to man. What happened on that rainy afternoon?
Gracie, remember that?
I'll never forget it.
Well, goodbye.
Quiet. Just what happened on that rainy afternoon?
Oh, go on, Gracie, tell him.
Well, we came to a big puddle of water. Keith took off his shoes, and I carried him across piggyback.
So what's so funny about that?
Well, his toes tickled my ribs.
Well, I acted like a big dope, and I really owe you an apology.
Oh, that's all right, Keith. Forget it.
Keith? Gracie? Never speak to me again.
Well, I say now? George! George!
We do hope you have enjoyed our presentation of George is Jealous of Gracie's Old Boyfriend. Performing for you were the Reverend Norm Seeley as George Burns, Judy Wells as Gracie Allen, Pat Lansche as the Duck, Haley Brown as Phyllis Goodwin, Jacqueline Daly Edwards as Paula Whiteman, Judy G as Janet Nash, and Drew Winters as Keith Fowler. Drew was also our musician and sound editor. Sound effects were by Joe Dullard. This show was directed and narrated by Pat Lansche. Thanks to Reverend Ann Dionisio, who got the ball rolling. Thanks to our sponsor, Swan Soap. And thanks to all of you for joining us.